Have you ever had a moment so quiet you could hear the exact second your life broke into? For me, it happened in my own hallway, the scent of fresh-cut grass drifting in through the open screen door. My neighbor Mark, a man I'd shared beers with over the fence, stood there shifting his weight, his eyes refusing to meet mine. Then he said it, a single sentence that detonated the world I knew. "You should check the camera in your garage, the one pointing at the back door," and then he just walked away. If you genuinely enjoy our stories, please subscribe to the channel. Tell us where you're from and what time it is right now. It's always fascinating to know how far our story flows. My heart hammered against my ribs, a frantic drumbeat against the sudden deafening silence. The garage camera. I'd installed it for security, a deterrent for package thieves, not to spy on my own life. My wife Sarah was out for her book club night. It was a weekly ritual, one I never questioned. Why would I? We had a 15-year history, a beautiful home in the suburbs of Chicago, a life we'd built from the ground up, or so I thought. My hands trembled as I unlocked my phone, the app icon for the security system seeming to mock me. I scrolled back through the footage from the previous week, the day of her last book club, and there it was. Not a thief, not a stranger. It was Mark. Mark, my neighbor, slipping out of my back door, followed moments later by Sarah. She glanced around, a furtive, guilty look on her face I'd never seen before. She straightened her blouse, ran a hand through her hair, and then watched as Mark disappeared back towards his own yard. The video had no sound, but I didn't need any. The image was a confession, a betrayal seared directly onto my brain. I stumbled back from the screen, a guttural sound escaping my throat. My legs gave out and I slid down the wall, the cool drywall a stark contrast to the fire raging inside me. 15 years. The laughter, the struggles, the late-night talks, the promises, were they all a lie? Every "I love you," every shared dream, I felt like a prop in a long-running play where I was the only one who didn't know my lines. The next few days were a waking nightmare. I moved through my own home like a ghost. When Sarah came home that night, she kissed me, her lips still tasting of the wine she'd had at her book club. The hypocrisy was so staggering, it almost made me laugh. I looked at her, really looked at her, and saw a stranger. The familiar curve of her smile seemed sharp, predatory. Her eyes, which I once thought held the universe, were now just opaque shields hiding a world of deceit. Her behavior, which I'd previously dismissed as stress, now came into sharp focus. The late nights at work, the constant texting with a smile she tried to hide, the way she'd started locking her phone. She'd become distant, cold even. When I'd try to get close, she'd pull away, sighing about being tired or having a headache. She'd made me feel like I was the problem, like my needs were a burden. She was gaslighting me, manipulating my love for her to create space for her affair. One evening, we hosted a neighborhood barbecue. Mark and his wife came over. The audacity was breathtaking. Mark clapped me on the shoulder, asking how my week was, a smug, knowing glint in his eye. Sarah laughed at his jokes, a little too loudly. They stood near the grill, their bodies angled towards each other, an invisible string of shared secrets pulling them together. They thought they were invincible, untouchable. I watched them, my hands clenched so tight my knuckles were white, the plastic cup in my hand cracking under the pressure. The humiliation was a physical thing, a hot poker twisting in my gut. I felt like the neighborhood fool, the last one to know. That night after everyone left was when I finally broke. Went into the garage, the scene of the crime, and just sobbed loud. Dramatic sobs, but the silent, shoulder-shaking kind that hollow you out from the inside. The grief was immense, a tidal wave of pain for the life I thought I had, for the woman I thought I'd married.
Ow.
But as the tears subsided, something else took their place. Cold, hard resolve began to form in the pit of my stomach. Grief was a passenger, but rage was now in the driver's seat. They had humiliated me in my own home. They had taken my love and my trust and trampled all over it. They would not get away with it. Sarah would not just walk away with half of everything I'd worked my entire life for, to start a new life with him. No, I wouldn't let that happen. Revenge wasn't just an option. It was the only path forward. A transformation began in secret. The heartbroken husband was now a detective, a strategist. I became a phantom in my own house. I used my IT skills to install keystroke loggers on our home computer and discrete audio recorders in her car. I needed more than just a grainy video. I needed undeniable soul-crushing proof, and I got it. I read their text messages, filled with explicit details and cruel jokes at my expense. I was the ball and chain, the boring old husband. They planned their future. Trysts, while I was in the next room making dinner, I listened to hours of audio from her car, hearing her call him the second she pulled out of the driveway. Her voice changing from the cool, detached tone she used with me to one of giddy, girlish excitement. Every word was a nail in the coffin of the man I used to be. The pain was excruciating, but I channeled it, became my fuel. I learned that Mark, a financial advisor, been giving Sarah advice that involved moving our joint savings into a new higher-risk investment account under her name only. It was a classic move, bleeding our shared finances dry before she made her exit. The trap was being set, but not for me. My plan had 3 phases. Phase 1, financial ruin. I contacted my lawyer, and using the evidence I'd gathered, we quietly and legally began the process of protecting my assets. We discovered Mark was running a shady side hustle, using his clients' money for risky, unapproved trades. His firm would be very interested to know about that. I prepared an anonymous, detailed report complete with account numbers and transaction dates, ready to be sent to his compliance department in the SEC. Phase 2, social implosion. Sarah was the president of our neighborhood homeowners association. The annual neighborhood gala, her pride and joy, was in 2 weeks. It was the perfect stage. Everyone would be there. Phase 3, the final reveal. The night of the gala arrived. I wore my best suit. Sarah was radiant in a new dress, one I'm sure she thought Mark would appreciate. She commented on how calm I seemed. I just smiled and said I was looking forward to the evening. At the venue, Mark came over and shook my hand. Looking sharp, he said, his arrogance practically a physical presence. "You too," I replied, my voice steady, betraying none of the storm raging inside me. Sarah's big moment came after dinner. She stepped up to the podium to give her annual address, beaming out at the crowd of our friends and neighbors. As she began to speak about community and trust, I made my move. I had a friend in the AV booth. On my signal, the large screens on either side of the stage, which were supposed to be showing a slideshow of neighborhood events, flickered. And then it began. First, their text messages appeared on screen, large enough for everyone to read. Gasps rippled through the ballroom. Sarah's speech faltered, her face draining of all color. Then the audio from her car began to play over the sound system, her voice unmistakable, cooing to Mark, mocking me. The final exhibit was the video, the grainy footage from the garage showing them sneaking out of my house. The silence in the room was absolute, broken only by Sarah's strangled gasp. She stood frozen at the podium, exposed, humiliated. Mark tried to shrink into the background, his face a mask of pure panic. I didn't look at them. I stood at my table, took a calm sip of my water, and then walked out of the ballroom without a single word. The aftermath was swift and brutal. By the next morning, the anonymous tip about Mark's financial dealings had been sent. He was fired, and a federal investigation was launched. He and his wife had to sell their house to cover legal fees. Sarah was a pariah. No one in the neighborhood would even look at her. She filed for divorce, but with the proof of her infidelity and financial misconduct, she walked away with almost nothing. The affair had cost her everything. I sold the house, the one we built together, the one she desecrated. I moved into a sparse apartment in the city, overlooking the cold, gray waters of Lake Michigan. The fury has subsided, the fire of revenge has burned itself out. Now, all that's left is a quiet, echoing emptiness. I got my justice. I won. But I come home every night to a silent apartment, and I can't help but wonder what I really won. The end.